He's the CEO of Systems and Marketing Solutions, and he's here today to show you how to connect your PPC efforts to OntraPort. Please welcome Josh Erdman.
Hey, everybody. So the assumption here today is that everyone's built some beautiful OntraPort campaigns. And I'm CEO of Systems and Marketing Solutions, and I love people. I love the technology and watching and seeing how people interact and use technology in their daily lives to get things done. And that's what's really fun for me. So what I learned is that when people are expressing their issues or frustrations, it's in the way of story. And that's why I'm not a digital marketing expert. I have employees for that. I'm a digital marketing storyteller. And through that, it helps you connect and understand what's going on. It's great for when you're trying to work with a big CEO of another company. You're trying to tell them what all this marketing stuff's supposed to do. So we're going to start today off with a story. Back in college, a local church had a retreat for college students, and the goal was to get them completely out of their environment. And they got host families. So I was matched up with another college student, and we were at a host family in this home, spending the night, 2 nights in a row. And it was a young couple, and they said, well, we have to leave to work early in the morning tomorrow, so here's our pantry, here's our kitchen, you have whatever you want for breakfast, just have at it, have a great time, we'll see you tomorrow night. So we wake up, and they're gone, and I'm hungry. So, of course, I'm in college, so very hungry. And we raid the pantry, and all they have are Cheerios, plain Cheerios. And then we have the milk, we have the Cheerios, and I have this big bowl, but I needed some sweetener. So we raided the pantry looking for sugar, looking for stevia, looking for anything. We didn't find any of it until right there on the counter, Honey Bear. Like, all right, well, that'll work. I can do honey. So we sit down. I got this big grin on my face, big spoon. I put a glob of honey on there across from my temporary roommate. I get a big scoop of Cheerios, put that in my mouth. My eyes go big. I spit it out. And my roommate says, what? And then with foam coming out of my mouth, I said, soap. It was what I now call Honey Bear experiences. The decorative Honey Bear had yellow-colored soap in it. And, it certainly did not meet my expectation. And, this is off script now, but I'm going to continue the story. So the next night when they get home, I tell them, it's like, I kind of learned about the Honey Bear. And, this young married couple, and the husband looks at the wife and says, I told you that would happen. So, the goal is to avoid these types of Honey Bear experiences. And people, they take these big memories, and it's their memories that result and relate into the story that they tell to other people. So you want to think about what is it and what kind of experiences are we making in our OntraPort campaigns? What is it that our clients are talking about? And it's all about building the right experience. OntraPort allows us to create a full experience for everyone. Where I'm preaching to the choir. It's through drip campaigns and emails and through the power of segmentation, we know what they're looking for. We know what newsletter that they responded to, and we can respond accordingly to what their needs are. And we can nurture and build relationships. And the idea is, now that we have these campaigns, how can we start filling that funnel and bringing people into this experience, not just the mailing list that we've already been nurturing? How do we grow that? And it's the idea is through digital marketing. So the problem is, we want to grow this. We want to grow the people in our list, and we can't just import mail. You can't just go buy a mailing list. That's a Honey Bear experience. All of a sudden, you're getting a newsletter from a company that you didn't sign up with. We don't want these Honey Bear experiences. So we're going to go through these ideas. So we'll get to digital marketing first, but we got to come up with, how do we fill this? How do we get people there? You can't just have an ad or something on your website. We'll get there. So weak calls to action. I called my buddy over at OntraPort, Casey Hill, and I was like, if I'm speaking on digital marketing, what are some things that I can talk about? What's going out there? What would be helpful? And he said, well, people are using OntraPort, but they have these really weak calls to action to get people into their funnel. So, sign up for the newsletter, schedule now, free consultation. People are expecting that one thing. Obviously a newsletter, they're expecting just a newsletter drip. Well, we don't need OntraPort for that. That's really cutting OntraPort off the heels. It's so much more capable of doing some amazing things there. Schedule now and free consultation, they're expecting some type of human interaction. So what else can we give them to go deeper and further? And so it's about attracting leads. We want to attract leads of people that we haven't communicated for, and not just on our website. We got to do it off the website to get them interested to be on our website more. That's what we're going to talk about. So it's about lead magnets. And everyone should have an idea of what a lead magnet is. We're going to go through what's not a good lead magnet at the same time. And it's not clickbait. Clickbait is just going to hurt your reputation. It's also not coupons. That's just going to cut your bottom line. It's not going to be a digital billboard, just plain display ads of what we sell on a display ad. Because if we do just plain display ads, we're just doing a lot of ad spend. And that's something you can try, but what we want is a relationship. You can't build a relationship off a display ad of what you sell. So we're going to go through this example of the wedding florist. And that was what I figured would be a good idea, just something that we can grab into. So imagine a florist, and her goal is to reach to brides, or soon-to-be brides, and offer her services. What kind of lead magnet? What are some things that a new bride who's going to be married, is planning her wedding, is looking for? So there's the obvious. One of those is a gallery. Every bride, or bride-to-be, I guess, is looking at cakes, looking at dresses, looking at flowers, and they're going to see things. A gallery is something that they want, but it would be a terrible lead magnet. Give us your email address, and then you can see our gallery. They would just move on. So that's certainly not one that we're going to use. But a couple other ideas of one, a checklist. When I got married 17 years ago, I didn't use a spreadsheet, but I probably should have. There's a whole lot of things to think about and consider, and a checklist would be extremely valuable. I did a search, we'll come to this one later, but the meanings. Each flower actually has a meaning. Colors have a meaning. So the symbolism of, if you want to put extra symbolism into a wedding, this might be an interesting guide that you can create. And if you're the wedding florist, you're the expert. You would know all these kinds of things. So we're giving away something for free that they can get. Another example of one was a local play. If you participate in a lot of weddings all the time from your local area, you know the vendors. So you probably could create a list of great caterers and rental companies, the ones that are going to give you that 10-star wedding without any problems. So here's an example of what we can use as a lead magnet. We're giving away our knowledge for free, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about those and how we got some of these, because it's the tools and the psychology that matters. So obviously, channeling what a bride wants to plan a wedding, that's probably kind of an easy one, but when it comes to reaching your customer, we're trying to figure those out. We'll get to those tools. So we're looking to appeal to someone's emotional need. We're looking to give them immediate, as quickly as possible, immediate satisfaction. We have given them something valuable that they can take action on. And it needs to be real value. So in some ways, a lot of people think of it, well, this is my intellectual property. I'm going to hang on to this. I don't want to give it away. You want to make sure that your lead magnet has value, and it might hurt to give that one away. It's going to be specific. And finally, gratification. They have to feel like they got exactly what they wanted. So, tools. We are going to need a lot of tools. We're going to need some tools to talk about how we understand the psychology of this person to create a lead magnet. And we're going to talk about a lot of tools today. So we're going to go over a lot of domain names, and the cool thing is, these are all free. So I got another story for you to touch on tools. As a kid, my parents would take us about every 2 years to the cattle ranch my mom was raised on in the mountains of Colorado. And my mom was the 7 of 8 children in a 3-bedroom house up on a farm. And as they built a new house, and my grandma converted the old house into a museum. We'd play in the museum and look at all these old things. That's where my grandma hid frozen chocolate chip cookies that we'd sneak when we weren't supposed to. And behind the house was a creek, and it was always running. And I decided I was going to build a boat. So I found a piece of scrap 2x4, and I took the 2 tools that a 10-year-old is very familiar with. a screwdriver, and a hammer. And I started pounding on this thing, trying to carve out wood and put a lot of effort into this. Put a nail and a piece of string, and I took this thing out to the creek, and it was just pitiful. The wood did not float. Any little wave would just totally would overtake and fill the little part that I carved out. The boat would tip over, and I was pretty disappointed. I walk up to the new house where my grandpa's standing on top of on the stairs. And he looks at that, and he instantly knew what's going on. My grandpa was 100% deaf, so there's not a whole lot of conversation, but there's a lot of things that he did for me that I remember. He said, "Come with me." So we walk over to the garden, and I am having no idea what he's going to do here. And he's looking around, he bends over, he picks up, about the size of a soda can, a cucumber. We walk back to the house, and he pulls out his pocket knife and carves out the top of this cucumber, sends me in the kitchen for a spoon, and he just scoops out all the seeds, pops my string off, pokes it in the hole, ties it in there, and says, "Here you go, try that." And I go back to the creek, and this thing floated amazing. And the amount of effort he put into it was nothing compared to what I was doing with my stupid screwdriver and hammer. He knew the tools, he knew the materials, and he had the experience to put all of those together to make something magic. Hopefully these tools do the same kind of thing for you. So what we need to do is find the emotional need. A bride has needs, and we're experts. So one of the things that we need to be careful of is it's called the curse of knowledge. Has anyone ever heard of that term? So the curse of knowledge, you guys are an expert. So in your area, you are a 10. You know everything. You could destroy the minds of any of your customers, and you do your best not to. You want to connect to them, so what do? We talk, and we talk down at their level. But the curse of knowledge says the best we can do is talk down at about a 5 or a 6. Now, this is all stuff that Donald Miller talks about in StoryBrand, if you're familiar with it. It works well, it rings well. And we need to get down not to a 5 or a 6. We need to get down to a 1 or a 2 with the people that we're talking about. And the problem is when you look at what happens, the curse of knowledge creates this gap, and it's very difficult for us to think about the emotional need. So think about a doctor. A doctor treats the problem, but all the patients come in, what are they complaining about? All their symptoms. Think about, and if you look at the marketing, a doctor, if he was to make an ad for himself, he'd say, "Are you pregnant? Come to me, I'm an expert, an OGBGYN doctor." But when you think about making an ad to the point of view of the pregnant mom, what is she going to say? What is she going to respond to? Do you urinate frequently? Do you have weird cravings for everything? Is it difficult for you to sleep? That would engage them. We're hitting them in their life, their physical life of what's going on. That's engaging. So we want to touch that emotional need. So we talked about the curse of knowledge already. So there's a tool that I found called Answer the Public. It's a free tool. You hop on the internet and you can type anyone's subject. And in this example, what I did is, in trying to come up with a good lead magnet for our florist, I typed in the word just flower. And what Answer the Public does, I'll get around here on this side, it comes up with all these questions of who, what, when, where, why, and it gives you a complete collection of questions that match a phrase or the word that you use. So if you look at the yellow sections here, I found some of these, the word symbol a couple of times. It never would have occurred to me trying to think about this unless it was this tool. People are asking and looking for the symbolism of flowers. And then just from that, through natural extension, I realized, I bet they're looking for the symbolism of colors as well. We'll put these together. So that was the lead magnet I decided to go with for our example. So Answer the Public's a very powerful tool. I have a slide that has all the different URLs in there for us as we're going along. So we have to come up with some ideas of our pay-per-click advertising strategies in combining all these tactics. Because before we just dive in, we need to learn strategy to make this work. I look at things like to start at one point and build my way out from there. So build a landing page first, and obviously the lead magnet for the landing page, and then the ads, and then go from that way. So I start from one area and build out. So some of these strategies we're going to talk about, that we're going to learn about and discuss, are quality score, the audiences. You can gather audiences, and nurturing. So we're all nurturing experts here. I'm going to tell you and show you how to nurture before the funnel. We can nurture people and create an experience for them in AdWords. In Google Display Network. And then also conversion tracking. Because if you're not measuring, if you're measuring by how often your phone rings, then you're not measuring, and that's not good. If you're doing split tests and you create a lot of display ads, You might be able to look at your website and say, wow, look at all these ads that are bringing me all this traffic. But we don't care about which ad brings me a lot of traffic. I care about which ad makes the phone ring. So you need to have conversion tracking and connect those. And you can do all of that through Google. So how pay-per-click advertising works. In a summary, it is an online auction in real time. So every single bid, it is recalculating who's going to win. And Google is doing this math on the keyword that you're wanting to buy, if we're talking about keywords, or when we're talking about display and trying to calculate the type of audience we're displaying. We have this, you have the relevancy of what your ad is about and how you want it to match. So one of those examples would be contextual. I have a display ad, and if anyone's on a wedding website that has display ads, or if someone's reading a news article that's talking about weddings, show my ad up. So there's that contextual thing. So Google is going to do this match, and then also how much you're willing to bid. And all of this calculates into a rank calculation that looks something similar like this. So it's not just money. Google's going to take your money, but Google is also looking to create a good experience. So let's talk specifically about quality score, because that is what Google's algorithm is Google is calculating an experience value. What is a quality score? The quality score is a mixture of load speed. They have an image to uphold. So if your website runs slow, they look bad because they recommended that website. So they're going to look at load speeds. The use of your words. If your display ad or if you're doing Google search and the keywords that you're buying don't match very well to the landing page that you're sending them, that's a bad quality score. An example I use is, let's say that you have an alarm company and you decide that people who are buying really expensive diamonds are a perfect client for you. They'll need your alarm system because they're buying all this jewelry. So the wife types in diamonds and all of a sudden pops an alarm ad. I would say that's a honey bear experience. That's not going to work very good. So the match of your words on your landing page with the keywords that you're doing or with the description of your display ad is very important in what's calculated in the quality score. And the interactions, like time on page. So OntraPort, version 3 landing pages, very flexible. We can do all kinds of cool things. What can we do to improve the time on page on the site? A simple video. You can embed a video, make it really nice. You put a 30-second video in, now we know people will stay probably for 30 seconds. And you can change the video out. I mean, thank God for split tests, right? So those are things that you want to do to improve your quality score. And the way the math works is you have a bid, and it was that multiplier. The bid times the quality score is your rank. If your quality score is half as relevant as someone else because of a speed issue or because of keywords not matching, they can bid half as much and still match your rank and get more visibility. So you can save significant dollars in your pay-per-click advertising by improving your quality scores. And that's data that Google will give you inside their AdWords console. So now you need to design your display ads. And there's some other cool tools. You're going to want to be able to look at the competition. So there's a tool on the internet called moat.com. Is anyone familiar with that tool? MOAT.com, so like the thing around a castle. You can type in industries, business names, and see all these different display ads that match up. In the top right corner of that website, moat.com, will be other matching ones that match by category. Now you can see what the competition's doing and get some ideas, borrow some ideas there. The other important thing is we want to match the keywords on your landing page. Your landing page's keywords need to match either your search keywords that you're doing. That's all about quality score. So those need to match. And then finally, we're going to do some split testing. We can do split testing in OntraPort. Why not also take this knowledge that we're already familiar with and apply it to our display ads above our funnel? So split test your display ads, make a bunch of them, try them out. But now that you're making revisions of them, we can have a little bit more fun with that. And we'll talk about that later. Audiences. You can collect audiences. So just like on a website, if you have a website that's not OntraPort based, OntraPort gives you a snippet of tracking code. And that's how when people have a cookie, you can look at specific contacts and see all the points and the activity they're doing on your website. Google, Facebook, they all have the same thing. Facebook has what's called the tracking pixel. Google has a little bit of JavaScript that they run. And based on people visiting your sites, you can collect audiences. So maybe they went to your site, but they haven't used your call to action or filled out the form yet. you can still collect them in an audience. And as you're gathering these audiences, there's some very important things you want to do. One is remarket. Now, we've all probably been a victim of remarketing. You go on Amazon's website, you look at coffee makers, you don't buy the coffee maker, and now everything is about coffee makers. You get followed like a high-maintenance ex-girlfriend. And in our company, we believe that instead of exploiting technology to create more noise and just follow everyone, we can use this extra value and information and technology to make a more meaningful connection. Remarketing is relevant, but let's put the frequency down at the level that it should be. Retarget. So I'm reborrowing the term. A lot of those remarket retarget has been used interchangeably. When I talk about retarget, it has to actually do with the nurturing that I'm going to be talking about. So I'll get there in a minute. Remove. When someone finally clicks one of your ads and they go onto your website and they buy, you can make that thank you page a goal. And when they instruct Google, when they make it to the thank you page, let's stop marketing to them. Why spend money trying to sell them again? There's nothing more annoying than the only thing more annoying than ads chasing you around on that coffee maker is when you already bought the coffee maker and they're still chasing you. So make sure that you remove them. Or there might be a different kind of ad that you can create for them that is an upsell ad or the next thing. There's a lot of value in what you can do with your audiences. So we definitely want to move and evolve them along the process. So here's the big one, nurturing in your display ads. In your display ads, you have the ability to age your audience. So we created an audience of everyone that's visited our site that hasn't made it to the thank you page yet, and you can actually segment them by age. So this could be days, this could be weeks. And what you can do is by aging your audience, you can show different display ads to the age of those people in your audience. And what we're creating is the digital equivalent of what happens on the freeway already. You're driving through the desert and you're 20 miles away from a city and you see one little billboard sign that says, in 10 miles, pull over for pistachios. And then 2 more miles later, you see, and beef jerky. And then right before, there's all these different funny signs on the way there. And then quarter mile, the turn's right here. And they're evolving the message as I'm getting closer to the destination. This is the same thing over time. You can nurture you can build nurturing campaigns. And obviously, since we're tracking what's going on and finding out which ads result in most clicks and hopefully which ads result into most purchases and conversions, we might change the order and put things up earlier. Some of the examples I was thinking about with changing your message. If our lead magnet has to do with, back to our example of the wedding florist, the questions that we're trying to connect. Are you planning a wedding? Or maybe another question is planning a wedding with ultimate meaning. Another question might be, are you in a hurry? Maybe 3 weeks from then, now that's getting closer to the date, they might be worried. It all has to do with the timeline of what is in your industry. Houses have a huge timeline, months. Cars, a lot shorter timeline. And trivial things like shoes, people don't decide on what shoes to buy over months of time. So based on your industry, you should know what your timeline is and have that match and fit your display ad audience as you're evolving these. And then definitely change your frequency. So when it comes to houses, rule of thumb in that one is when someone hits the site, or if you're a realtor and you get a phone call, they're probably interested right now. And if it doesn't result in one right now, they're hitting the research phase, and then it's 9 months from now. Same thing for your market. Know what that is, and then change your frequency to fit that. If they are a now or 3 weeks from now, then you can change your frequency, have a lot more intensity in how often you're showing your ad right now, and then ramp it down so it's not so annoying, and then bring it back up again as you reach that 3-week mark. So that's how we're not chasing people like a high-maintenance ex-girlfriend. Conversion tracking. So conversion tracking, extremely important. This is the measuring of the whole thing. And one of the important things about that is when you're putting these things in your landing pages, notice how we have our custom domains. None of these are .ontraport, whatever. We created an extra domain name. So in this case, we're publishing op.smsrd.com in this example. And that's one of the catches when you're using Google AdWords and Google Analytics. If you want to be able to track things in OntraPort, the parent domain here needs to match. So the best way to do that You can talk to some of the lab people, but you're going to go into your DNS host. It doesn't cost anything. If you already own a domain, you can get a subdomain and point that over to OntraPort. There's some technology hurdles there. We can talk about that a little bit later, but you want your domain name to match. If you're using OntraPort domains similar to this one right here, you're going to have problems tracking that code and actually doing conversion tracking and setting goals because it's a separate domain and it gets a lot more complicated. So we'll deal with the complication here at this point instead of trying to do the complications stuff and connecting goals when we're switching domains inside the process. So it's the same root domain, and then you want to set up your tracking code. We'll talk about what that looks like. The tracking code is provided for you. When you set up a Google Analytics account, Google Analytics is used for two things. Google Analytics will track the activity on your website, but at the same time, in Google Analytics, you set goals that can then be connected to your AdWords account. So it all starts with your Google Analytics tracking code. And the question is, how do you use that? Where do you put that? And then finally, the other one is you need to have a custom thank you page. So OntraPort has the nice, convenient feature of built-in JavaScript thank yous, but that doesn't help us fit our target with conversions. Remember, we talked about audiences, and if we're going to remove someone from an audience, we need to be able to set that goal. I don't want to recode OntraPort's JavaScript to tell analytics that they click the submit button on the form. You can do that, but the easy way is you build a thank you page. And on the thank you page, there's plenty of opportunity there to do upsells and everything else, but we can set a goal once when they make it to the thank you page, pull them from the audience. And then configuring the goals. So what ends up happening is as you test your campaign out and you've already put in your tracking code, Google Analytics will see that and see all the pages visited, and it's really easy just to say, when they hit this page, this is one of our goals. This is what the tracking code looks like. At our office, we prefer to use Google Tag Manager. The reason why we use Tag Manager is because it allows us to put in, we don't have to edit the page and find this thing often. Tag Manager is another free tool available to you. In Tag Manager, it's really a container. So you put that code in, and then you can put in your Google Analytics tracking code. If it's not on the OntraPort site, you can put in your OntraPort tracking code, your Facebook tracking code. Really, I mean, with all this tracking stuff, you don't have to have a paid account to start tracking now. So you could set up a Facebook ads campaign without paying anything and start tracking them and putting them into an audience over time for when you want to market and market later. But you can lay your technology down now for free. So Tag Manager, it allows you to quickly turn each of those functions on and off, and it's sort of an easy way to sort of hide what you're doing, because then when people go and they view the source on your website, they'll see Tag Manager code, but they don't know all the different modules you're having that web browser load. At least, the majority of people don't know how to see what it's doing easily. So that's a quick and easy way to hide a lot of the code that you want to load from a third party. Yeah.
We just started using Google Tag Manager, and somebody was saying that the other benefit, and I wanted to check this with you, was that it loads after your page loads, so it's slowing them down with Google Tag Manager. Is that also true?
So there's something different about that. So with a
lot of tracking pixels and stuff can sometimes slow your page.
here's the real problem that people see, and that's a good website optimization question. Google has another thing, and I don't even have it here on this example. It's Google Page Speed Insights. Does anyone use that? It's a protocol tool. So if you search for Page Speed Insights, you can type in your domain name. You can type in your domain name, and what you're doing is saying, Google, scan my site. Let me know how it looks. And for everyone, it'll always show the protocols. Are you HTTPS? Do you have giant pictures that need to be smaller? Are you compressing images? And then it'll also tell you about things being loaded from the same location. So in the case of a website, website.com, if I have code on the site and I have my font files and my image files, and just to load a front page is 30 different things to fetch, well, your web browser is only going to pull in, I believe, 5 items at a time. So the web browser will not stream more than a block of that from that server. That's why a lot of people use these content delivery networks to outsource all those kinds of things, because that way it will get half the pictures it needs from one server and another half from another server at the same time to make it load faster. So loading this extra code is obvious extra code that needs to be loaded, but it's all text that compresses. The text compresses at a 12-to-1 ratio at minimum, so that shouldn't be a problem, especially compared to the images. As soon as you have 20 images, the big issue isn't the code. The big issue is having your images either on a CDN or figuring out some way to have it distributed across multiple servers. But then you're also talking about a high-volume website. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, yeah, glad to help. So I got a bonus slide for you, and that is when it comes to this whole idea of Google Display Network and advertising, you can actually go beyond display. There's so much more other than just images and display ads. A lot of people put in a lot of effort in video. You might already have a television commercial that you've used today. You can use something called OTT. And instead of taking a commercial or a video and giving it to a TV station and not getting any tracking data back, you can take advantage of what people are already doing today in binge watching. And when people are binge watching on Hulu or they're binge watching on Crackle, all those have to show a commercial. So instead of appointment TV, where everyone's running to their television at a specific time to watch Say Yes to the Dress, in this example, why don't we just go into digital where someone can binge watch all the Say Yes to the Dress episodes, and I got a commercial that's popping in there all the time, and I get feedback, and they're watching the whole thing, and they're not able to use one of those TV boxes to hit the skip commercial button. So there's a lot of power in video as well. It goes so much beyond what we can just do in display at the same time for these lead magnets, because you can make a lead magnet video at the same time and say, instead of a picture that says 1,000 words, I think it's goes unsaid how many words a video would be able to show. So anyway, I'm Josh Erdman, CEO of Systems Market Solutions. I love stories. I'd love to hear yours, and I have a lot more too. So why don't we open up for questions? Oh.
I'm going to ask the question that we talked about earlier.
Yeah.
So very small company, not a lot of huge budget for digital marketing. Where do you recommend we put any funds we do have first?
How is your social media presence?
Non-existent. Our client really isn't a social media client. It's really business to business, industrial, commercial.
Then you should be on LinkedIn. That's a social media presence.
That's true. I'm on LinkedIn.
Okay.
But like if we do have a little fund, where do you recommend we start?
So we had a conversation about SEO, and I'll talk a little bit about that. SEO is good when it's like, I'm going to use my analogy again. SEO is like a personal trainer. When a personal trainer works with you, that first week is hell. They're making all kinds of changes to your diet, your activity, and your sleep cycle. But then after you've made those changes and you're living life, it's just maintenance. So a $3,000 a month SEO plan, what else are they doing after all these changes are made? That's not maintenance. That could be what we need to be doing up front. So a first look at your website in SEO, part of that has to do with the speeds that we're talking about and using the right keywords. Those are very important. Then the next thing I would say is social media presence. When you have a small budget, and in your case, LinkedIn, but Facebook is a good one for everybody, doing ads doesn't entirely make sense, especially if your budget is, like I think you were saying, around $600 a month, but you have the power of doing boosting. So how does that work? I think Facebook might be one of the, LinkedIn and Facebook, they're very similar in relevancy. Facebook prefers video, LinkedIn prefers text. That's one important thing. But between those, you are posting in these social media networks, but if you don't have a big following, it's sort of like the tree falling in the forest. There's anyone there to hear it. So you have this catch-22. Why invest in social media if I don't have any followers? That's where, and then what Facebook does is when you look at everything that can be shown in your Facebook or LinkedIn feed, they're doing the same thing. They're trying to create a relevant experience. So there is a calculation going on who's your best friends, because we'll put a priority of showing those things in your feed more than these other pages that you're following. And they're trying to calculate the most relevant stuff. Same thing in LinkedIn. They're looking to calculate the most relevant stuff. So any post that you're doing on your company site, they're doing the same thing, but the relevancy probably is really low. So when you're boosting your post inside LinkedIn or Facebook, what you're really doing is you're just paying for a higher relevancy. Because also in those feeds, a lot of times what you'll see, especially for people just starting, is if you're not following anyone or you're following very few, then they're showing you feeds of your secondary connections. They're trying to get you some type of content. So by boosting, and also in Facebook, you can do a like and follow us campaign. And as you're growing that, paying for that relevance, people can connect and start following you, and now you have an audience. So you're buying that audience, but you're doing it through boosting your posts. That's what we recommend doing first before you actually go into some type of ads campaign. Any other questions? Well, I made it easy. If you want to talk more about video and over the top, Jackie's here in the room as well. She's my digital media strategist. She works magic when it comes to connecting all those different kinds of things together. I'll be more than happy to answer other questions as well at the front. Thank you very much, everyone.
Let's all thank Josh Erdman with a big round of applause for sharing his tips for making the most of your SEO and PPC.